Welcome into the I-80 Club After Dark. Josh Peterson, Jack Mitchell with you on the final Saturday of September, and we will be here for the next 90-ish minutes talking about Nebraska's 28-10 win over Purdue as they move to 4-1 on the season. If you are joining us live on YouTube and you are not a subscriber to our Patreon, we would love to have you there, patreon.com/I-80 Clubs. Jack, that is where we will be reading the comments as we roll on throughout the night from all of our subscribers. But while you're here, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. At the very least, we would very much appreciate it. Jack, how are you?
Yeah, it's I'm good. No, I'm good, and yeah, you'll get that way notified when we go on, because it kind of changes sometimes on weekends. So you can find out when we're on, when we're live, hang out with us. When we do free shows, we do a lot of free shows, but we do some behind the paywall too. So yeah, you'll be able to find out. I'm good. You know, it was a win, Josh. I said to you during this morning, I said this to you during this morning is, after Nebraska loses, I get mad at myself for not having been in a place where I would have appreciated a win enough. And so I'm taking that note from my hypothetical self, and I'm savoring it. I'm appreciating it. It could have been so much. For a while, I thought it was going to be so much worse. I thought I was texting you. I was texting you at halftime. I was like,
we were lamenting a rough show tonight multiple times, lamenting a rough show tonight.
Yeah, I was like, if they don't win this, tonight is going to be miserable. We were still going to do it, but I was much less looking forward to it than I am with the way that things went. Yeah, at halftime, I think my concern, and we'll get into all of this, but my concern was just that Purdue was at some point going to seize momentum, and they were going to be at home, and they were going to hang in this game. Josh, you had asked me if Nebraska wins, what has happened, and I said incorrectly that they'll take control at the beginning of the game, which they didn't on the scoreboard. They kind of did on the stat sheet, but they didn't on the scoreboard. And so that really worried me, because I thought, Purdue gets one play, they get pumped up, they think they got a chance to win this thing in the second half, and then all of a sudden we've been on this roller coaster before. And instead, just the opposite happened. Outside of one drive, Nebraska played about as good a second half as you could have imagined. And so here we are. I mean, talk about a tale of two halves. We almost have to have two sections
but the reverse
of the show.
What it's been the reverse of all year long. Yeah, Corey posts in the Discord channel. And again, if you want to hang out in there and chat with our subscribers, patreon.com/I-80 Club. Corey says, crazy that it was the same score as the Colorado win, but the vibes are so different.
Yeah.
And Robbie Lula and I, Jack, we hopped on at the half. And so we got to do basically the exact opposite of what you and I did, and that was lament real bad football, real bad special teams, not finishing drives. And at that time, it's 0-0, and we're like, what in the world is going on with things? And so we get to do the opposite that you and I did a couple of games ago, and it was a giant party for 20 minutes.
Whenever I'm coming on after it goes well, I guess that's the rule, huh?
Yeah. Either that or when we go on at the half, we reverse whatever mojo is there. So, hey, if Ohio State's up 21-7 in a few weeks, I guess that means we're hopping on. We got to reverse the curse of the second half. But yeah, it was such a strange game. There are so many avenues to start with. One thing that I did want to mention first, though, Jack, and that is the beginning of the second half where Purdue goes down and they get the field goal. And I assume you were watching with friends. The group chat was, of course, popping off on my end, and it was like, well, that's an insurmountable lead. And that they went then right down the field the next drive, 9 plays, 70 yards. They score, and they never gave up the lead. And they scored on their first 3 drives. The next time that their offense touched the ball, it was the last 2 plays of the game. So 3 real drives in the second half for the offense, 3 touchdowns. And I would say, given the circumstances of the game, easily the most impressive 3 drives in a row that Nebraska's had at any point this season on offense.
Yeah. For sure. It was like the offense, but you know what? We can, the problem with the offense in the first half was when they got finishing the drive.
They couldn't finish the drives.
Finish the drive. I mean, I mapped all of this out, the first half drives, Josh, because they got inside of the 40 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
Yeah. And by the way, real quick, going back to the previous game, not counting the kneel down, that meant that 8 straight Nebraska drives that Nebraska had got inside of the opponent's 40-yard line, and it resulted in 0 points. The overtime drive, not the kneel down at the end of the game, but then the previous drive. So you look at the last 2 drives versus Illinois, the first 6 drives versus Purdue, and they had not scored, even though they had gotten inside of the 40-yard line every single time.
Yeah, and before I get into kind of the granular stuff, let me just say I'm feeling pretty decent after this game, to be honest, because for a few reasons. Number one, you asked me on Wednesday, Josh, you asked me what is the biggest thing Nebraska could do in this game to get you feeling most like you did on the Friday before the Illinois game. And what did I say? Pitch a shutout or a near shutout on defense.
Got that.
They did it. So, I mean, like, if I was being true to myself, that was my biggest concern, and they did that. And we'll get into like the listen, there's plenty of problems. We're going to go over the problems, but man, they were like super specific on offense, the problems. And I'll break down what I mean by that here a little bit later. And then of course the special teams, we'll get into all of that. That's an issue. We knew that was going to be an issue. It's just not going to not be an issue as well. Yeah. But the defense played, as well as you could have hoped, maybe better than you would have hoped, I thought, in that
couple
game.
Missed tackles, but otherwise,
honestly,
I mean, certainly looked like they did in the first few games.
That's what I said to you too this morning. I think I was like, I just want them to look like they did in the first couple of games. And they did. The pass rush was there, right? The receivers were covered most of the time. It was, and so I don't know, like going away from it, and especially after I really delved into the box score and seeing what happened and looking all over it, like, it's just weird because the order that it happened, Josh, if you mix and match that game a little bit, right? Mix up the drives a little bit, I think it feels totally different, even if you have the exact same stats and results.
But instead of it being first half good, second half bad, or first half bad, second half good, if it was like a little like, hey, a couple of drives good, and then maybe they drove and didn't finish, and then another drive good, and then they drove and they didn't finish, and then another drive good, like, oh, okay, that's nice. But instead it was bad, or not finish, and then it was touchdown.
Right.
See you later. By the time the pick six happened, I mean, the game was long over by then, but it was like, oh, sweet. The game is now done.
And it went like in the end, after it was all over, that was what I expect. I think that was the score. I think I might have predicted 28-10 or 28-13. I might have hit the score on the nose on the Friday Husker tailgate. I can't remember. Or maybe I had 28-13. That's what I expected in this game. It's exactly where I was at with this whole thing. But let's get to let's get the problems out of the way first, okay? Because I know that's what everyone wants to hear about. Let's get them out of the way. And the biggest special teams is its own thing. We're going to get into that. But let's get into what killed them in the first half, okay?
Okay.
They going between whenever they started drives and getting to the 40 or better, they were fine. They had a lot of success getting there. They had some big play. Ja'Cory Barney had a big run, right? Jalen Lloyd had a pretty big play. They had some other decent passes. But then they got into the situation on the first drive, get down to the Purdue 34, right? And incomplete, right? At that point, 3 straight. So it's 3rd and 10, or 4th and 10, actually. And they're going to go for it at that point. And what do you have? Penalty. I think it was a false start.
Wait, real quick. Are we talking about the first drive right now?
For Nebraska's first offensive drive.
That was a delay of game. So I think that at that point in time they had decided.
Oh, that's what that was. That was the. You're right. That was an intentional.
They were like,
penalty.
let's get pushed back a little bit and punt it because obviously
that was an intentional. So that one was an intentional penalty.
Yes.
The next
the next drive.
The next one, they got to the 28. They got to the 28. They went run for 4 yards, run for 1 yard, run for 4 yards.
And so it's 4th and 1 at the Purdue 19 at this point in time.
Yes, and then they get the penalty. That's where they get the, I believe, was it a false start? I don't remember what the penalty was.
Yes, that was a false start on, it doesn't say. I think, that was the Benhart one. That was the Benhart one because that was when they brought Heinrich Harburg onto the field, right? Because people were mad about them bringing Harburg onto the field in shotgun.
And so then they kick the field goal. They don't go for it. They miss. So first time when they have 3 downs, they pass all 3 of them. all of them incomplete. And people are freaking out. They're like, run the ball. You got to run the ball. The next time they run the ball and they get 8 yards, 9 yards, but don't get it all, and they get the penalty. Field goal miss. Next drive, they start 1st down and 10 at the Purdue 29. Run the ball for 0, run the ball for 7, run the ball for 0, go for it on 4th down, touchdown, penalty, calls it back. That was Ramir, right?
Yeah. And by the way, they didn't start that drive on the Purdue 29. They started that drive on their own 21.
Yes, they get down. What I'm saying is in all of these drives, sorry, when I'm saying the place.
I'm like, am I missing a drive? I'm looking at the drive chart. I'm like, what drive was this?
No, what I'm doing is saying the turning point in the drive on all of these. So they got down to the Purdue 29, and then a penalty, a touchdown, and a penalty ruined it. So that's two straight drives where you had a penalty that basically killed you on that thing. Drive number 4, they got down to the Purdue 23. They moved it down to the 23.
And by the way, real quick, I mean, do we want to acknowledge that penalty is among the worst penalties that has ever been called in a Nebraska football game?
No, I don't like to blame refs for penalties.
I mean, Fedoni, literally, olays the guy. He as good of a job as you can do at not hitting a player, and he olays him. And remember, they reviewed that to see if the pass had been beyond or behind the line of scrimmage, because if it would have been behind the line of scrimmage, which he missed it by like a yard, it would have counted and it would have been a touchdown.
I guess, Josh, I just think bad calls even out, and I think if you want to get the calls, you should play better. That's always been my thought.
You're turning over a new leaf, Jack. I think we all appreciate it.
No, I thought that was the worst call in my life. I was losing my damn mind.
You didn't mention it.
I was losing my damn mind. And you know what made me even more mad about it, which I mentioned on Twitter several times, is I didn't even complain about this. I never even tweeted about it. I never said a thing. But on both of Illinois' touchdowns, 2 of their touchdowns last week, they got a little shoulder into Gifford when he was coming over on those tight end touchdowns that they got when Gifford's trying to run over and cover. They had a little, they didn't get called for a pick. They didn't get called for OPI. They had a little of that. And so that made me furious because all of those were way worse. Wow, Illinois going right down the field on Penn State.
I got that on too.
Probably doing some OPI too, right here. Anyway.
Nice.
Okay, so then next drive, they get down. They don't start. They get down to the
Thank you.
Purdue 23.
They started the 43 on that drive.
They get sacked. First play, they get sacked. Second play is a pass for 5 yards. Third play is incomplete. So they did 3 passes that time. Every time they either do 3 runs or 3 passes on all 3 downs.
Yeah, got to mix up the play calls there.
And then they missed the field goal. Then the next one, they get down to the Purdue 47. They pass for 7. They run for 2, then there's a penalty, then there's an incomplete, and then there's a punt. And then they get down to the Purdue 35. They run for 0, incomplete, miss the field goal. My point is, in those 6 drives, 3 or 4 plays on every single one of them, Dylan Raiola had the majority of his incompletions for the entire game.
Yeah.
On those 6 sets of 4 downs. He had the majority of the incompletions for his entire game. You had half your penalties for the entire game on those as well. And you had about a total of 18 yards rushing on 9 carries in those as well. It was those 6 drives those 6 series that I just alluded to. That's why that first half sucked for the offense.
Because they got down, they moved the ball, and sometimes they got helped with some OP or defensive pass interferences. By the way, Illinois just scored a touchdown on 1st and goal, so that game already off to a
I bet there was a tight end again.
Look at that, wide open in the end zone. It looks like last week.
Holy cow! Are the ratings next week going to be Alabama 1, Illinois 2, Nebraska 3, Colorado 4?
Hard to argue at this point in time. By the way, there was a little rub there by the Illinois player again.
100%. They do that.
They
funny.
Do that. That's Penn State. The Penn State version of the I-80 club right now, absolutely losing its mind in their Discord server.
6 should call Isaac Gifford, and they can talk tonight. Penn State number 6 can talk to Isaac Gifford because they both had that. Anyhow.
So let me ask you this then, Jack. What is the takeaway that you are having in this moment about Nebraska, given that they are moving inside of the 40-yard line every single time? Like you said, we will save special teams. So I don't know if we want to talk about special teams in this moment because we certainly could. But they also were not converting 3rd down. Somebody posted a few minutes ago on Discord. I'm trying to find out who it was. Here it was, Joe. Nebraska 1 for 8 3rd down efficiency. So that was the thing, is that they got down. They were unable to convert.
Were 6 of them. Those were
and
6 of them.
they did have noticeable distance to go on almost all of those. Not getting a chance to go for the 4th and 1 because of the false start penalty on Benhart was brutal. I don't know if it would have worked out. They did snap the ball and things were moving, but I couldn't really tell on a couple of the replays. So they did do that. But they never put themselves into a position really to convert like a manageable 3rd down. It was usually like that kind of middle 3rd and 7 or longer. And obviously then we know what happened with the special teams. Like, what are you feeling in the moment in terms of why they're not finishing?
This isn't a very good answer to your question. It feels like legit every part of everything goes to hell when they get down there.
Spot the line.
Honestly, like they turn into a different team, or they did today, and they have before, right? They lose discipline. There's penalties all over the place. The play calling gets really weird, and it even stayed weird in the second half, I think, when they got down there, even though it ended up working, right? You're fully unable to run the ball, and Raiola has his worst plays of the game. I don't know, Josh. To answer your question, it's everything. Like, I don't even know why that is such an issue, but it looks like a complete today in the first half. And let's be fair. They made some amends in the second half, but in the first half, that offense looked unbelievably different once they got inside the 40-yard line.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like, I'll turn it over to you. Do you have any? And it is every part of it. It's pass pro. It's the running game. It almost makes me think that's why they suck so much in overtime last week.
Is because is it that the field shortens, that there's not as much room to go deep. I mean, like, let's be honest, Nebraska was able to gain large amounts of yardage today because they were throwing the ball deep and they were getting pass interference calls. How many pass interference calls were there on those deep passes?
6.
Was it 5 or 6?
Total, I think there were 6 DPIs, or maybe it was 5.
Ooh. Yeah, that is a lot, man. That is a lot of interference calls. And this isn't a criticism of anything. It's just more an acknowledgement that when you're at your own 40 and you're throwing it deep, you're able to gain 15 yards with a pass interference. Whereas when you're inside the 15, first of all, they're not doing that. They weren't like going to the end zone.
That's
over
true.
And over
they
and
made
over.
hay on that. You're right.
Yeah, but they were not doing that. I mean, one of the things that Ravi and I talked about, and Huss keeps posting play calling. So I am seeing that, Huss. I'm not ignoring you there. But
I said that. I listed that in my laundry list of the issues. It was
play calling again from Huss.
Play calling.
One of the things that Ravi pointed out, Huss, are you typing and posting play calling again? One of the things that Ravi and I talked about a lot in our halftime show was the run game and the way in which Nebraska was running, because at the time, Ja'Cory Barney had 2 carries. I believe he finished with 3 carries. His third one was not as good as either of the first 2, but he had 2 really good carries. Otherwise, the run game was pretty much non-existent, Jack, in the first half. It was absolutely horrible.
And
one of the things that I kept asking for, and I've been asking for this for a season plus now, give me Emmett Johnson, more Emmett Johnson. Last year it was almost I don't want Harburg to run. I would like to see somebody else get to run the ball a little bit more. That's why I wanted to see Emmett Johnson. This season, Jack, it's because the guy is really running the ball well. He's averaging quite a few yards per carry. And you know what happened? What was different first half versus second half? In my opinion, it was Emmett Johnson. 7 carries, 47 yards, much, much, much better than Dowdell, who had 9 carries for 21 yards. It was an entirely different situation in the second half for Nebraska. Entirely different situation.
I mean, and we can still talk about the concerns that go along with I don't care who it is. You should have been running on that defense. But nonetheless, I'm at the point now, Josh, and I don't think this will be a particularly controversial take. I think everyone will agree. Emmett Johnson needs to be the first guy, and Dowdell is your change of pace back.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And
I'd say your physical back, right? Like he is the guy that I want.
Your short yardage, your goal line back, fine. Goal line, vulture touchdowns for the people who have Emmett on their fantasy team, that kind of thing. And then Ramir Johnson's like an NFL third down back, basically. Yeah. Is how I would look at the 3. But I would hope Emmett Johnson is getting the lion's share of the carries, and you bring you bring Dowdell in or Ramir as a change of pace from him at this point. Yeah. Like that's what I want to see. It's interesting they didn't end up there, but I felt like
this has been so obvious So
yeah,
obvious.
I feel like I thought this. I feel like we all thought this after last week too.
Yep.
And I don't know. They got infatuated with Dowdell after not liking him at all. Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
Because
And I just
all we
posted about
heard was that they didn't love him during spring
I just
camp.
posted the stats in the Discord channel, and one of the pages that I was looking at, Jack, actually had Johnson with one fewer carry and so fewer yards. So he finishes with 8 carries for 50 yards. So one fewer carry than Dowdell, 29 more yards, 6.3 yards per carry versus only 2.3. Nebraska finishes 32 rushes for 161 yards. But if you take out the sack, it was actually 31 for 169. So it's funny because John on Sportsman Iconic yesterday, one of his goals for the game for Nebraska was 150 yards and 5 yards per carry. And in the end, they do that. They get 5 yards a carry and they get 150 yards. But it obviously did not look as pretty and as strong as you would hope, given how bad of a rush
Josh,
defense
the sequencing of this game, they hit every mark you probably would have wanted to see on offense and defense in this game. Yeah. Not on special teams, but on offense and defense. It's just the sequencing made it feel super weird.
Yeah.
If you were talking about targets for numbers, that's a great example of that. But yeah, it's got, I mean, I hope they're at that spot now because Emmett looked genuinely good. And again, let's repeat, Purdue is one of the worst run defenses in the nation. Horrible. I can't, honestly, if you want to hear my very biggest concerns from this game, it is the inability to run in the first half.
Yeah.
Even with, it was weird. It was bizarre how difficult that was for them.
It was, yeah. And it's a problem. It's an absolute problem. And I mean, I think I said this to Ravi. I know I said it to some friends. As the first half is unfolding, I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm going to predict them to win any of their remaining games. Like the week of, I don't know if I'm going to do that. I still feel a little iffy about it going into Rutgers, and that's mainly because it seems really, really difficult right now for them to gain yards, to score points. And then other times it's like, wow, they hummed on down the field. Like the second half drives were lovely to watch, where they're connecting with guys are open over the middle. I think the run game allowed them to open it up a little bit more. They're going, to receivers downfield and Dylan made some really nice throws. The one where on the replay, Fedoni almost tips it and it goes over his head was hilarious, but it's like just another reminder of the guy's ability to throw the football over the heads of everybody.
And he did it again.
Yes.
That is his superpower by far. But I have learned, that's what what are we going to learn about Dylan? That he knows the exact launch angle to loft things up, to get the exact right amount, to get it over someone's head and into the receiver's hands.
It's incredible.
That's the one thing he's got. Now, that said, as we're going all over the place here, I don't know how much it was intentional today, but he did it last week too. He's been underthrowing his deep throws.
Yes, he has.
And
I would say this is the biggest concern with him as a quarterback in his first 5 games is that he's been doing this going back to the first game of the season.
And the Nair one against Illinois that ended up getting wrestled away from him, that was that was a touchdown. If he
wasn't the interception versus Northern Iowa also one where he underthrew it and the guy wrestled it away. I feel like that it now,
it's
what
crazy.
So I wonder, is it a not wanting to chuck it deeper? He doesn't want to overthrow. Does he have too much touch in some of these situations?
I don't know.
I'm very curious as to why that happens.
And let me add in one more thought to that, Josh. Remember when we watched the Lingenfelter incompletion on that one? He seemed to unnecessarily throw that off of his back foot.
Yeah,
he seemed to be feeling more pressure than there actually was. So I don't know if he's not quite stepping into these or what exactly. And you know what? All of the ones he underthrew today, Josh, ended up resulting in pass interference. So it worked out, but they weren't like the traditional kind of back shoulder throws. They just looked underthrown.
Yeah, Corey says today it almost felt purposeful to draw PI penalties.
Yeah, it might have been.
I want to agree with that, but given that the sample size now of him underthrowing guys is not this is not a new. If this was game 1, I would say, "Whoa, look at the moxie." By the way, Penn State just scored a touchdown. But I'd say, "Whoa, look at the moxie." From my bad, I won't do that anymore. Look at the moxie of this true freshman quarterback. He's doing this, but given that he has underthrown guys now going back multiple games, I don't know if I feel
Josh. Remember that touchdown on the first game he made to Nair against UTEP? I haven't seen that since.
Correct.
Just dropping it in on a deep pass.
Yeah.
which is kind of a bummer. Like, and again, this is super nitpicking. Like, don't, and it worked out so much. And I'll say something on the other side of it. Like,
Okay.
I am so happy to see Nebraska weaponizing defensive pass interference like every other effing team does.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
They haven't done that. They've never done it. They have never. Do you know how many times Nebraska's defense has been on that side of getting all the DPI calls? Like, you've got to weaponize DPI at this point, and they finally did. I was thrilled to see them actually do that. But I do want Dylan, when he has the chance to make that deep throw, to be able to hit these guys in stride. And that's one thing, again, nitpicky, that we just, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird that it's that frequently short. I'm surprised about that.
Yeah, NU1 says, is DR just a little too nonchalant? It's funny. I've been wondering when we would get that, and don't take this as a negative, NU1, but I was wondering when we'd kind of get that like criticism or question about him, because the way in which it looks so easy for him, it does come across as nonchalant. I don't think that that's what it is. I just think he's figuring it out. Again, today it ended up being this massive positive. You can't do that over and over against Ohio State, though, in a few weeks and expect it to result in a bunch of pass interferences. It's gonna result in interceptions or something like that. So Alex says DR took an ugly sack where it looked like he thought he was going to escape, which should have been an easy throwaway. Yeah, that was confusing. I'm stunned that he ended up not throwing that ball away, Jack, because he definitely should have, and he ended up getting sacked for, I think, 7 or 8 yards. It was the drive that ended in one of
this on my list? Was that the sack on first down on the 4th drive?
Yes, it was that one. Because he was rolling Purdue to the right, 23. So he's rolling to the bottom of the screen, and there was a guy who just clipped his legs, and he ended up going down. So
yeah. And listen, there's going to be some development, and as Husker says, give him time, he'll get better. Yeah, I think he will. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, this is not oh my gosh, things are falling apart. This is not more like throw the ball away. Like, it's okay to throw the ball away.
Like, I found a tiny bit of something I can actually do with it, but it did work out today. What? On another note, real quick.
Yeah,
what was Purdue doing on defense? Like, honestly, there were some pass interference or holding calls in their defensive backfield that weren't made. They were as soon as the ball went up, they were throwing down or getting super handsy with all of the receivers. It was a weird defensive game plan for Purdue, I thought. Like, they would, I know Walters likes to play zone, but the pass rush was just half-hearted the entire game. Did you notice that? Like, the Purdue's pass rush was just half-hearted almost the entire game.
I mean, like, I think Josh D'Lo is right. It's the worst defense in the Power 4. Like, I don't think it's half-hearted. I just think they're bad.
No, I mean,
dude, they suck.
They took no risk. They sent 3 guys, sometimes 4, and sat back and in zone.
I think isn't that the game plan versus them right now?
Oh, they gave him so. I feel like against maybe other quarterbacks, but they gave him so much freaking time. Like, the offensive line, there were guys with nothing to do on the offensive line on a few of those plays.
And by the way, Bama just scored a touchdown on their first drive of the game. They hummed right on down the field. I think the plan is, when you're defending Nebraska, if you don't respect their run game, which I don't really think teams are going to, you rush 3, you drop 8, and you try to make the true freshman quarterback pick you apart.
Yeah,
Purdue is just a bad defense, so it's like I don't view that as like bad game plan. I just view it as bad.
Well, it's even more concerning then that Nebraska couldn't run the ball because they were just having a drop back. Let's hope he makes a bad throw into zone coverage or misread zone coverage. I thought it was odd. I thought they'd be more aggressive on defense than they were, to be honest.
Interesting.
They got aggressive once the ball went in the air, and then they just mauled the receiver on every play.
Yeah, and they kept giving Nebraska yardage.
It was like there weren't even that many. I don't even think any of those DPIs were controversial. The one they thought was uncatchable, but it was hard to even tell if it was because he did it so early in the play.
Huss has brought up the play calling again. So let me ask a question to the room, and if you're hanging out on our YouTube page, we would love to have you join us, patreon.com/I-80 Club, where you can ask us questions like this one. This isn't so much a question, but Huss says we could have posted 45 to 50 on them easily if it wasn't for play calling. Did you think the play calling was bad today, Jack?
Well, I thought it was when they got in those situations in the first half. Number one, it was not very. it felt very like, well, we're going to run it every time this time. Well, that didn't work. We're going to pass it every time this time. And then I thought when they got, the other time that I had thoughts that it was weird was when they got inside the 10 in the second half, and it felt like they were going to, they felt like, my analogy to my son, I was talking to him on the phone after the game, is it felt like Satterfield got, when I discover a new page of plays on a video game, I'm in my like 8th game in a season in a dynasty, and I'm like, oh, here's a bunch of plays that I hadn't found in this formation. Let's try these. How about Gabe Irvin out of an H-back position, going in and then how about Carter Nelson
that was odd,
jumping from the 3.5-yard line?
Yeah.
Right.
And how about the fact that they kept calling him Quentin Ives? They kept saying Ives. Yeah, Ives, yes. Ives. I was like, right. Ives.
Quentin Ives. The like that part, I mean, it felt like when people say it feels too cute, that felt too cute to me for sure. And then I got to 4th down and I was like, if they do not give it to Dowdell or Emmett Johnson up the middle, there's going to be a riot in this city. And sure enough, they give it up to Dowdell and boop, right in. I don't know, like I have some issues with, I just didn't think they had the right, I just didn't think they had a whole lot the right plays, but most people critiqued it in like, they're not running it enough, in inside of the red zone. And they would try it and it didn't work.
Is that what the criticism was? Like, and that's for the record.
Early it was.
I asked the question, and I would love to know, like, from Huss and others who didn't think the play calling was good, like, what they thought was bad. Because I am with those, like D'Lo, who says execution was much worse than play calling. I thought, and like this is obviously, I'm very much separating from the special teams, right? Like that is going to be its whole other thing. But in terms of the raw play calls, I'm sure that I had some criticisms, but I never really thought it was like, what a stupid play call that was. What a stupid play call
I'm
that
with you.
was.
Like I didn't. Yeah, in those first those 4 and outs or 3 and outs there.
It's a 4th and 1, and they were going to run the ball, and Benhart, a guy with 40 some odd starts underneath his belt, gets a false start. Like what? That's not play calling. And so if like that doesn't go their way, if the player does his job and they pick up a first down and then they score a touchdown, like there's not a criticism there about the play call.
So Josh, the only times the offense wasn't successful are those 6 times I talked about, really.
Yeah.
Those are in the first half. So first one, incomplete. And there were people, Stephen M. Sipple and John Bishop, who were going hardcore run the ball guy after that on Twitter.
No,
right?
So I missed this. Were they being critical of Nebraska's play calling, or were they being critical of their ability to run the ball? I guess I thought that it was they can't do it.
No. Their critique was about 3 incompletions in a row.
Okay.
From the Purdue 34. So next drive, guess what? 3 running plays in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And they did get 9 yards on them. But then, as you mentioned, the penalty on 4th and 1 when they were going to run it again. And it looked like they had it. Yeah. So then the next time, run for 0, run for 7, run for 0. And then they have the great play with Ramir. But that one's called back because of a penalty. That was the Ramir play was great.
Great play.
I mean, that play was great.
Yeah.
And then on the next drive, they had, again, I'll do it again, the sack that you guys were talking about where you guys critiqued Dylan a little bit. They had a pass for 5 yards, and then they had another incomplete pass. Like, I don't know exactly what people want him to be doing in these situations.
Throw the way. I mean, Jack, you could have thrown the ball away. That was the criticism.
No, not Dylan. Play. I'm sorry, not Dylan.
Okay.
Satterfield.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm agreeing with, like, I just don't, I don't know. I'm not all over the play calling like some people. I thought the weirdest play calling was when they were inside the 10-yard line on that one series and did the.
See, do you think the play calling was weird, or did you think the personnel was weird? Because again, those are two very different things. Okay,
both. Well, I mean, they did the thing with, they did the sort of that running play with Irvin was, kind of non-traditional. Felt like and it was, what was the first down play? It was a pass, right? Oh, that was one where Dylan just ditched it.
Yeah. So Gabe Irvin runs for 4, and then
the play before
what was the Gabe Irvin run? I don't remember this.
He was lined up as almost like an H back, or he was lined up at the line of scrimmage, almost like a tight end. So
okay,
he was not out of the back, out of the backfield. It was kind of a.
Oh, it was kind of like an end around play.
Kind of, yeah, with Irvin.
Okay, yeah. So that was that. I didn't have an issue with the pass. I mean, Dylan saw the coverage, and so he just ditched the ball.
Well, they thought they were. What happened on that play was it was a play action. They thought they were going to bite like hell on the run, and they didn't.
Yeah,
so
did. So he just threw it in the ground.
So I didn't. They didn't.
Carter Nelson, jump man, comes in and dives, and then obviously Dowdell.
What people didn't like is they didn't run it up the middle, and then they did.
Well, they did for the touchdown, so it's like
they did on fourth down.
You know, so in the end, it's like the result is what the result is. Like, I don't know. Does it bother you that much that they scored on fourth down instead of second down? Like, I don't know. Like,
no, I'm not.
I am someone, and I'm not. This isn't criticism of you. This is kind of a criticism in general. I think 2nd and goal at the 1 yard line. I am like okay with using that moment to pass the ball because it's 2nd and goal at the 1 yard line. Like of all of the moments to try to do something through the air, that can be the moment to do it. Like if it leads into you not being able to convert, like you're at the 1 yard line, like that's a you problem. Like you got to be able to run the ball at some point in time.
Yeah.
Alex's 4th and 1 play could not have been more conventional. That was great play. Blocking was great. It was easy. He pretty much walked into the end.
I think people were just like, why didn't they do that earlier? So,
yeah.
But and again, like I'm just again, if you're asking me when I was most noticing the play calling, that was it. That was it.
And that's hilarious because that drive ends in a touchdown, and so it's like
it did. Wasn't. My problem was not with the play call. Listen, I will say this: I feel like Satterfield could get more creative. Creative might not be the word.
I was going to say, wait, but you didn't like when Gabe Irvin was lined up at the H-back position.
Yeah, creative
is pretty different and weird.
I don't know. It feels like all of the inside runs. I don't know if. Why are they not able? Why were they so not able to run it in the first half?
Because they're not good at it. I can see like this is not play calling. This is not design. This is execution. It's like they don't have a good enough line. Man, and at the time they didn't have a good enough
that bad against the worst run defense in college football.
And isn't that like I don't want to make this whole pod negative tonight, but yes, like that's the biggest concern, right? To leave this game is to say, wow. You wanted them to be able to run the football against a defense that has given up 700 yards on the ground in each of the last 2 weeks combined. And they were not able to do that.
Yeah.
And so, when you
100%.
look forward, when you look at Rutgers and when you look at Indiana, I mean, maybe not so much Indiana, but when you look at Ohio State and even USC made some plays versus the Wisconsin offense today. And then you look at Iowa later in the year and you look at Wisconsin to bring them up again, like, it's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be really, really tough.
100. Again, the top concern I'm taking out of this game, other than special teams, is the inability to run the ball.
Yeah.
And how much does Emmett Johnson change that? I don't know. That honestly, Josh, I would like to see a full Emmett. I would like to see a full Emmett game.
Couldn't agree more.
Where Emmett is the primary back. As I said, Dowdell is the change of pace / power back. Ramirez, the NFL style third down back. Let me see that. Let me see that for an entire game, and then let's assess where the running game is and try and figure out, is it about the O-line? And Rutgers will be a great test for that. You know, I would love to see that against Rutgers and then reevaluate after that whole thing.
Yeah, Robbie says, I genuinely think Dowdell cannot see the holes. I think that's it. Well, to go back to what you just said, I want to see an Emmett Johnson game too because, I mean, the blocking was better in the second half. How much of that is them? How much of that is Purdue? How much of that is the runner finding holes?
That's the thing. Was the second half working better about Emmett or about the offensive line?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. That's the question. Moving
but
forward.
I mean, like one of those plays where was the penalty, the one where Rule threw his headset. Emmett Johnson made some ridiculous moves on that play.
Yes, he did.
That's as good as I've seen a running back look this year, probably. Ramir had one play that was really good against Colorado like that, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
But otherwise, I mean, just Dowdell doesn't do that stuff, right?
No, he does not.
But he's sure it's not that he doesn't have a role either. Like I actually like the diversity of back that they've got in that running back room. It doesn't feel like they're using them to their strengths at this point.
Yeah, I mean the biggest positive about this game is so you got out of there with a win, huge, and maybe you found your running back, which could also be huge, But we'll see in the next game. There was a comment a few moments ago from Chuck, who said, "What has you feeling good?"
Okay,
Jack, what has you feeling good about? And we're still saving the special team, so shout out to us. We're not taking the low hanging fruit just yet. We'll get to that.
No kidding.
Look at us, 40 minutes in, we're still staying away from special teams. So don't worry, we'll rave about that.
Number one is the pass rush being back. Like for me, pass and the way they and the run defense. Really the defense looking like they did very early in the year again. Like that was back. I was afraid they didn't even look like that against Northern Iowa. And Purdue has had success running the ball this year. Maccabee has a pretty good yards per carry average. I thought the run, I thought there were tackling issues, but you asked me what looked good. Pressure again without blitzing, without being too crazy with the blitzing. Coverage was good. Sierra Wright, I thought stepped in. It was kind of fighting injury. And they were like, we're going to go after him. Like they didn't even throw to Buford. Did you even see Buford in that game? They never threw on Buford.
Oh yeah.
They always went to Sierra Wright the entire game.
Yeah.
But and John Bullock is going to be an all Big Ten player. It's crazy. John Bullock is, who knew what that guy was going to be able to do? Josh, at the beginning of the year, when I was like, will they have a dude at linebacker? They 100% do. It's not probably the one that we were going to guess, though. It's John Bullock.
Yeah, some other positives coming from the chat. Corey says Buschini has legit looked really good. He's the only thing special on special teams. Robbie points out Maccabee was averaging 7.7 coming into the game. He was at like 3.2 today.
They were running it well. CJ Love was running it well too earlier this year.
Yeah, they did a really good job on defense. Again, how much of that is them? How much of that is the opposition? Like, you take what you can get in a matchup like this, coming off of a game that you just played. Five sacks, Jack, and there was a couple other times where they were getting in there and causing problems.
Now, if you want me to nitpick the defense, it is the almost sacks.
Yeah,
the amount of almost sacks that they get. I bet they had 5 almost sacks in addition to the 5 that they got.
Yeah, and what's funny, too, is like the analytics people, the numbers people, they actually think that pressures are better than sacks, which I'm going to disagree. Sorry, nerds. I think that it's better to get the sack because you're finishing the play. But just like the raw pressure on a quarterback over time, it's like in Shawshank Redemption, where, pressure over time is just going to cause issues for the quarterback. So I guess that's a good thing. But yeah, they were getting after. There were a couple of tackling issues again that reared their ugly head. Especially, dude, the first drive of the second half was kind of brutal for the defense. I know that there's a touchdown at the end of the drive. So at the very least, or at the end of the game, rather, at the very least, they bowed up on that field goal drive. But dude, that was, as that drive's unfolding and Nebraska's offense hadn't scored and they go up 3-0, and it's just like, sheesh, what the hell is going to happen? But they just did. They struggled, I thought, in that drive in particular at tackling. But I don't know. I thought that it was definitely a better game than they've had the last.
Josh, I thought it was their worst. It was their worst tackling game, honestly.
Really interesting. Yeah. I thought last week was the worst.
I thought it was what they had for a while, and it was especially the drive that you're talking about, where they had about 5 plays where it was like, oh my gosh, it looks like Carter's going to be sacked. Then he gets away. Then he hits a short pass, and then the first guy misses the tackle, and then they fall forward, and it's a 9-yard gain. I felt like they had that a bunch. And it probably was just that drive. And Maccabee fell forward a lot, with the whole thing. But in the end, it's just hard overall to have a whole lot of huge critique about what the defense did.
Yeah, Matt says 90 yards in the first half. How could tackling be worse this game?
I know. I'm just saying what I saw. And it was
Jack's
not
going off vibes.
It was not the first half. No, and it wasn't the first half. It was the first drive in the third quarter. Is when the majority of it came.
Yeah, that was bad. Otherwise, yeah.
But again, they held them to 3.
Yeah, they bowed up at the end. They did a good job.
There's no way.
That thing down,
yeah,
man.
As a whole, the defense did exactly what I wanted them to do, which I said was the most important thing in this game. So this is why I'm not feeling like I'm coming out of this. I got what I wanted. If I am being honest with what I wanted in this game, I'm satisfied tonight. So I am. Yeah. I thought Ty Robinson looked better again, right? I thought some of the guys that were just sort of absent from being playmakers the last couple, all those linebackers. Gosh, Josh, you want to hear something else I like? Mekhi freaking Bayer and the way that he tackles. Yeah. Like he is a dude. He hits hard. We slept on the linebackers all summer. We really did.
How many times did we say that we're sleeping on them? Like, how many times did we say, man, we don't talk about the linebackers enough?
The linebackers have been great, above average. I think MJ Sherman is playing. He looks like a different player than he did last year. He still does to me. I think Bayer is just.
Dude, MJ Sherman had one very notable play. Notable. That was in the second half, right, when he came out off the edge.
And then now they're working Javen Wright back in to this whole thing as well. And it's like, it's almost like, geez, that defensive line is going to have to start keeping up with these guys to be like the noted playmaker unit of the team at this point. And then with Sierra Wright, I think Singleton is also a really good. I like how Singleton plays safety. Like, he is a hitter. He likes to hit. Good against the run. Like, I'm excited about the run defense after this game for sure, and the pass rush being back. And you're going to need it against Rutgers, because that's going to be their MO, is running the ball, obviously.
Yeah, you know what's funny is, Jack, is like, this game's unfolding, and let me pull up the final yardage real fast on Nebraska, but as the game is unfolding, they finish with over 400 yards, Nebraska does. And for a while, it was like, my God, they're driving the ball so well, and they're not finishing. And that's how Washington lost last night versus Rutgers. They had so many yards. Like, there was this hilarious tweet, I think it was from Ralph Russo at one point in time, where it was like, how are they losing? And they weren't just losing at that moment. They were getting dominated on the scoreboard because they had so many yards, so many first downs, no turnovers, and yet they were down. And that's because they couldn't finish drives. And like Nebraska, they were missing field goals, often. So they got to finish drives next week versus.
They got to figure it out. They got to figure out the scheme. They got to figure out everything about it. Dylan's got to play better there. They got to get better play calls there. They've got to mix it up better. They got to have a better running game. I mean, that's really, Josh, if you want to really nail it down, if you don't have a great running game, those are going to be difficult situations.
They very much are. They very much are. What? Hey, we just named a ton of things that we like from the defense. Anything on the offense that you would? Wow, Bama is just moving up and down the field. Is there anything? Is there anything on the offense that you would say? What was the prompt on this? Say something good about something. Obviously Emmett Johnson. I think that we're all in agreement on that. Dylan again. It's funny. We talked about the sack. We talked about the lack of throwing the ball deep. Using the arm strength that he has. But man, I continue to be amazed by the guy, and it's just so much fun to watch him drop back and scan and see what he can do. The touchdown pass that went over Fidoni's hand was, again, sweet. It was really, really cool. So I love watching him play football at Nebraska. He's a really fun quarterback.
Pass protection was Purdue didn't offer much, but pass protection was a lot better than we saw it a lot of times last week, I thought. Yeah. So it is interesting. It feels like a real divide. Michigan State interception. Oh boy.
Ooh, what's that score?
10-0 Ohio State, but Michigan State's got it at the 10 now after that pick.
Nice. Let's go Spartans.
The offensive line seems like a real different animal between pass pro and run blocking. At least they did this week. Yeah. Sure. But again, Purdue really didn't offer a ton in terms of pressure. I liked when Nebraska discovered the tight end for, like a 10-minute period in that game. That was kind of exciting. Hey, we got this guy. We should throw to him. Yeah. And they did for a very small portion of the game. Yeah. And then they didn't the rest of the game. Ja'Cory Barney is great. I mean, what do you say? I mean, Ja'Cory Barney is a weapon.
4 carries, 66 yards, along of 31. He also had 2 catches for 28 yards. So that would be 94 yards total and a tutty. Yeah, he's a special dude, man. Special player. And the issue, and Robbie and I hit on this, is like getting him the ball and it not just being Mickey Mouse type stuff all the time. That's the thing that they got to figure out how to do.
Can he be a receiver downfield too? I know he's small, but yeah, that would be nice too.
Oh, here's a positive boy comment from Caleb. Through 5 games, Nebraska's turnover margin is +5. It was -6 at this time last year. And Jack, correct me if I'm wrong. There was no almost turnover today, right? Today was the day where Nebraska did a tremendous job at not even putting themselves in situations. I don't recall any throws from Raiola where it was like, "Ugh, that could have been a bad pass." Like I don't recall any of those happening today.
No, I don't. I could, maybe I've forgotten, but they haven't. Have they fumbled since? Since Dowdell fumbled, no, there was a fumble during the Illinois. Oh, Dylan fumbled, of course.
Yeah, Dylan fumbled twice on
that's
the.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
yeah, Tony says they protected the ball well today. I mean, they absolutely protected the ball well today.
If I had known they'd turn turnovers around this much, I would actually think the season's going even better than it is. Yeah, because I thought that was so important with this thing.
Yeah. By the way, shout out Tony. He literally just joined the I-80 club. Shout out Tony. Welcome to the I-80
man.
club, Tony.
Let's go.
But yeah, you're right, Jack. That's a great thing to mention. Like, if we would have told you before the season, hey, through 5 games, they're going to be +5 in the turnover margin. How many times in the offseason did we say something like, if this team could not just give the ball to the other one, they would be just fine? Now, of course, the defense has taken a little bit of a step back. The offense is still struggling at finishing drives, so maybe it hasn't been as dominating as we thought that a number like that would, lead you to believe. But man, +5 versus where they were last year, yeah, absolutely, we'll sign up for that.
And this is just a game. In other years, Josh.
Yes.
Purdue gets the ball. I mean, you know how this goes. You don't need me to tell you. In the second half, where you're favored, but it's 0-0 at halftime, and then all of a sudden the momentum starts snowballing for the home team. You don't have to go very deep into the recesses of your brain to imagine a situation in other years how this thing goes, right?
Correct.
Purdue gets momentum.
Yeah.
Super exciting. The fans get behind them, that sort of thing. And they just and the big point of that is holding them to a field goal on that first drive. I know It wasn't holding them to a field goal and then
right
turning around and scoring immediately and never freaking out about the situation.
Correct. Yeah.
So, that's another thing that I think is it's different now. That's different. So we shouldn't act like things are always just the same, because they're not.
Yeah, and so okay, so you just mentioned what you did. So the Purdue drives down to, let's see, their final first down started at the 36. They get a 4-yard play. They get a 5-yard play. It is 3rd and 1. Reggie Love runs for no gain, and they bring on the field goal kicking unit, and they kick a field goal, and the crowd boos when they make that decision to kick it. Nebraska then goes down 9 plays, 70 yards, touchdown. Then Purdue gets the ball back. 3 plays, -7 yards. And then Nebraska gets the ball back, and they go down and they go up 14-3. And at that moment in time, you pretty much think the game is over. They get another 3 and out, negative yards. So 2 straight drives, Jack. Purdue is in the negative, -7, -1. So they go -8 yards across 6 plays. Nebraska 6 plays, 67 yards. And that was the one that ended with the Barney 25-yard touchdown run, and the game is over.
Yeah. I mean,
the game's over after that.
It was pretty much done. After that field goal, the defense was done. Now there was the late touchdown, but that whole middle part of the second half, the defense was completely dominant.
Yep, 100%.
Completely dominant.
JP says we're 4-1. Feels like people think we are 0-5. Boys, we've been bad for a decade. Indeed it was. Indeed, they have been bad for a decade.
And then Jordan on the very next comment says, after the next 3 games, we could have a worse record after 8 games than we did last year.
Hey, how about this? You ready for a weird, goofy stat? And again, we're going to do a nice callback to 2016. Nebraska is 4-1 through 5 games for the first time since 2016, when they were 5-0. This is the best record that Nebraska has had through 5 games since 2016. The last time that they were 4-1 through 5 games, besides that, was the 2014 season, the last Bo year. So they are again in rarefied air. And we said it was hey, let me ask you this, or maybe. Should I save like a big picture question? Should we talk about the special teams, because we still have not talked about it?
Yeah, we got to talk. All right, we put it off for.
Okay, I'm gonna write this question down on my computer.
Hour.
Okay, I'll save that question. Special teams, garbage, absolute trash,
complete disaster,
dude. I just we talked on Friday or on Saturday last week when we did our Saturday morning. Oh my gosh, Jack! Wait till you see what happened in the Bama game. We talked last week about the decision to kick the field goal. And I said in the moment that it's like, at least that you can't do it anymore. You can't kick field goals. And some people, including my co-host, John, and this is not me calling anybody out, but some people said, no, you don't know that for sure. You got to try it again. Okay, well, they tried it again from distances that were, 42 yards, that was a missed field goal. 44 yards, that was a blocked field goal. And what was the last one? 32 yards. That was a blocked field goal. But the big issue with those, Jack, it's not just that they missed. It's not just that they got blocked. Every part of the operation was bad. It wasn't just the kicker. Last week we were like,
I feel bad. John Hull is definitely getting way more of the blame than he deserves on all of this.
Today it was he was, he still had to do the job of the kicking, but the other stuff was horrible. They were so bad from top to bottom. And so Jack, I just don't know if they can do it. Now, they did change kickers, right? They changed kickers for the extra points. So I guess maybe there's a world where
snappers,
they're like,
you mean?
Change is that what they did? They changed this. I was trying to figure it out.
They didn't change kick. They don't have another.
Okay, I thought that I had heard that they had changed.
Did Hull not kick the extra point? Who would have done it? Nico?
I thought that it was Nico, wasn't it?
Was he? Okay.
No, it was. Okay, never mind. You're right. It was. I thought that I heard
changing
that.
snappers during the field goals.
Okay. Yeah. So
and that was the biggest issue was the snaps.
Thank you everybody. Yeah. So it was the snappers. They're done kicking those, right? Like they can't do it anymore, right?
Like here's the insane thing: how can you not know how did this crop up now? I guess is my question. How could this issue with snaps and holds and kicks, whatever it is, how could that be cropping up now and be taking anyone by surprise? Which it is, because they keep running them out there to kick it, right? They keep thinking it's going to be right. How in the crap, if this is such an issue, if it is the issue to the extent that it looked like it was today, Josh, how is that not being seen over the last several months of practice?
Yeah.
That's what I don't That's what I do not understand.
Like last year is it the yips like last year with Sims?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't
because they didn't, Jack, they have made field goals this season, but they have turned incredibly sour in the last,
They have two snappers who are having trouble snapping it.
Wild.
How do you get to that point? How do you get to that point in September?
Dude, that photo that was tweeted out of Foley coaching the snappers while the Purdue band was on the field. That was funny. Hilarious. Just an incredible visual.
Which was the only thing they could do.
By the way, for those who aren't watching, Bama's up 21-0, and there's still 2:21 to go in the first quarter. They just picked off Carson Beck, and then they went right down the field, and they scored another touchdown. They are whooping Georgia's ass right now.
7-7 Illinois and Penn State. Penn State has the ball, second quarter.
And then is the Michigan State game?
Did score 10-7.
Let's go. All right. Maybe I'll flip it over to that one on the Peacock.
Mets and the Brewers are 0-0.
No one cares about that, Jack. Back to football, please. I just don't know what to do. And I want to see a replay of the punt. The first punt of the game was so annoying. When it was they're going to get down at the 1 yard line. Now, was he blocked into the end zone? Many were saying he was blocked into the end zone. Did you see anything there? I haven't watched a replay of that.
It doesn't matter.
I never was able to see a good angle.
Whatever happened doesn't matter. Number one, I have other questions. Why was there a guy 8 yards into the end zone?
Thank you. That was my thought.
What in the world? There's legit nothing you could be doing to be productive on a punt being 8 yards into the end zone instead of on the goal line waiting to catch it. What was he doing? Number two, every single time the Purdue returner, you know what he would do? We've got a good actor on our team. Yes.
The actor?
But Purdue, that's my imitation of his fake catching a punt, which threw our entire team off every time. Every time they believed it, they were like, oh, he caught it. It didn't bother.
The one where was it Ramir who ended up downing it? And he's looking around and he doesn't know where it is, and it bounces back into his arm.
I'm afraid those guys are going to get hit. They're going to have balls flying out of the air, injuring them because they've got no idea. Because the Purdue guy is so damn convincing that he fair caught it.
It's like some high school sports movie where the ball goes through the air and hits him in the head.
Yes,
and,
yes. And all they would need to do is just for the one moment, they can still keep their bearings around them where they are, but just glance up briefly into the West Lafayette sky, right? Which was ever changing during this game.
Dude, it was so sunny and then it was so cloudy over and over and over.
Josh, I was so confused. I was like, every commercial break, the weather completely changed in that game. It was pouring rain at one point. They take a commercial break, they come back, and it's just sunny as balls out there.
Yeah,
it was so confusing.
It was incredible. Caleb Henry says, just balls injuring dudes. Yep, that's
I'm worried about it
today, man. That's what was going on today.
They're gonna have balls falling out of the sky. You're gonna watch those balls coming out of the sky. Don't believe the actor.
The actor? Yeah, Jordan says I thought it was the cameras. No, that was the sun. And Jack is as a noted spotter on the pod
this
tonight.
Is an expert opinion alert. Alert.
It's so annoying when it goes from cloudy to sunny. Stick with one thing, sky. I don't like it when my binoculars are having a change.
It's the most volatile sky I've seen in Big Ten history.
Yeah,
Seriously.
exactly. Yeah, it was.
And it
very on
wasn't just
brand.
like a little. It would go from gray, depressing, rainy to like
Horrible.
at a beach in the Cayman Islands, sunny
Yeah.
in that
Ooh,
game.
this is the most. It's like the first day when you get down to Mexico and you walk out of your hotel and you're like, "Oh man, look how sunny it is!
I
It's
think I can have
gorgeous outside."
It's time for my first Corona of the
Yeah,
trip. Oh, the
exactly.
sun feels good.
2 of them? Yeah, I'll take 2 of them. It's day 1 of the vacation. I'm feeling excellent today. I'm feeling really, really good today.
Every damn commercial. It was so weird.
Yeah.
It was bizarre.
By the
I'm
way,
glad I wasn't the only one who
yes.
noticed that.
Oh, it's annoying the hell out of me. By the way, Jack, third down, Georgia gets an OPI. They don't catch the ball either, and so they are going to have to punt back to Bama, and it's still the first quarter.
Ohio State touchdown. Ohio State touchdown
rats.
on an end around,
That's a
FYI.
bummer.
And Penn
Georgia
State
looks horrible. Yeah, Carson Beck looks like shit right now.
Does Nebraska have a better quarterback than Georgia?
Many are asking.
If Dylan had made the choice he was going to make, would he be warming up right now on the sideline?
Hey, here's a question that I got today. Does Dylan Raiola regret coming to Nebraska? I wasn't going to ask it on the pod, but I figured that we could lead right into it. Does he regret coming to Nebraska right now? People are asking that question, Jack.
I think here's my take on that. I think he likes the idea of being it's a little bit of a big fish in a small pond.
You think he likes being the guy versus a cog in the machine?
But I also think he likes being sort of I think he relishes the idea of kind of being the savior in this situation. And I'm glad that he does. But I think there's some level of relishing that and the family connection and his dad and his brother. I think I'm not worried. I'm not worried that he's having second thoughts, right? I think
for the record, it's not so much that. Yeah, and I guess my question does kind of imply that, but just like
someone said that though. I didn't mean you had said it, but others had.
Yeah,
so.
You just wonder in the moment where they're just getting stupid ass penalties over and over and over. If he's like, this is annoying. Not regret, but more just like this is really annoying that this is happening right now. For the record, I don't believe
the process.
I should have asked the question.
Yeah, no, I get it's okay. Other people have said it, so I know other people brought it up on our board. They were like, "Is he gone at the end of the year?"
People have been asking that for weeks.
No, I think I do think he genuinely likes this process, right? And I think he also is smart enough to understand if he wants to play in the NFL, he's probably going to be with a crappy team for a while, right?
Yeah.
I think ask his dad, right? He was a offensive lineman on a really bad team.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Yeah.
Big picture question for you, Jack. We said coming into this game that it was a fork in the road game for Nebraska, where you get a victory, you stem the tide, you move to 4-1, you return home versus Rutgers next week, and all could be well. Whereas if you lose, tire fire, things are going to be really bad.
Thank goodness we're talking about a win. Let's just reiterate it. This could have been such a freaking disaster tonight and gone to hellhole. But
the only silver lining of the loss was going to be that John was going to have to eat a bunch of mayonnaise, but otherwise it would have been a really, 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 really bad time. So let me before you answer, when we talked this morning on the Saturday morning coffee show, and if you would like to join us, patreon.com/I-80 Club for the Saturday morning coffee shows, because those are paywalled only. We said, but what if it looks like that weird Northwestern game from 2019? And it does not. In the end, they win 28-10, and the offense scores 3 touchdowns. So fork in the road is are they good to go now moving forward, do you think?
What do you mean by good to go?
Like, can this be what we thought for the season now in future weeks? Like that they got the win. Did the win stem that tide?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, again, I think this should be treated as a what you expected to happen win, basically on balance. That's what this is tonight, and it was what I expected in terms of the margin. The stats board out, the sequencing of it was weird, but yeah, I think you're there. I don't know. How do you feel? How do you feel now about the next 2 matchups? Now that we know a little bit more about Rutgers, another data point with Indiana. I thought Indiana was maybe going to struggle a little bit today. They did not. They looked largely good. Like, how do you feel about these next 2 games now?
Definitely before the season, I am wrong on. I mean, I've been way off on Indiana. And I've owned
Yeah,
up to
me
that.
too.
Joe says Indiana is spooky. It's a tough game. Rutgers, I think, is difficult from the standpoint of playing, mistake-free football. Ben says 1-1 would be great. I tend to agree with that. I think 5-2 going into the
Interesting.
Ohio State game, while not like perfect, and I think they'd be scratching and clawing to get to the 6 because you'll lose to Ohio State. You'll be 5-3, which is that's the exact same record they had after 8 games last year, right?
Well,
So
that's what somebody was talking about earlier. If
yeah,
you lost
yeah.
both in Ohio State. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So, and yeah, if you lose the next 3, then you're actually a worse record than you were at that moment last year. You'd be 4-4. So like, I think that they're going to be really tough. Anyone says nervous, but feel offense gives me some hope. I think that that's how I would describe it. I think that the reason that I am not like insanely bullish on them for sure going 1-1 or for sure going 2-2 is the special teams is so bad. And
Yep.
they are leaving. Jack, how many points have they left on the field now in the last 2 games?
That's a great question. That is a great
How many
question.
like, I would love to know. Like, so there's this new stat that John and I have found recently. It's called Eckle rate. I don't know if he talked about this on your show yesterday, but essentially what it measures is driving inside of the 40-yard line and what you are able to do once you get into the opponent's 40-yard line. So it's not the red zone, but you're getting close to it.
Which is that's interesting because that's the exact number that today was a problem today.
Bingo. So Nebraska today, they got inside of the 40. And again, you go back to the Illinois game, and they were inside of the 40-yard line of the opposition for 8 straight drives, and they had 0 points. Now, after that, they did it 3 times, and they left with 21 points. So, like, in the end, what is that? 11 drives, 21 points. So it's about 2 points per Eckel, which that's not very good. But, like, that's the season. That's what the season is going to come down to is when they drive inside of the opposition's 40, can they score? And just check, the frightening part is no field goals feel comfortable. No distance do you say you got to get to the 15, you got to get to the 20, you got to get to the whatever it is. It's can you convert the 4th down? Like that's what the conversation is right now.
And today the punt return was even rough too. If you want to talk about special teams, like Isaiah Garcia Castaneda got blown up on one where he didn't fair catch it.
Yep.
And he's not really showing himself to be a playmaker. Listen, he's a step up because he can field them, but he's not really showing himself to be like a playmaker on punt return as well. I get it sucks. You know what's crazy? It just freaking sucks that you're going into these next 2 games and saying that is maybe your biggest liability. Just coming out of last year, you knew that was such an issue. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's sneaking up on you by surprise whatsoever, but it just wasn't addressed enough. No. All of these things you knew, and they're still freaking there. And it's inexplicable that could be the case because you know as a coach, it's going to lose you games if you don't get it right. And they still haven't.
Yeah, JP says
Sorry, Josh, the only thing I was going to ask before that, it's like, I don't know how you improve some of these things during this year without changing people out.
You talking about Foley?
Special teams. Without changing. Well, I mean, yes. But I meant, when I said that, I meant more, having a new kicker, right? Having new personnel, having a new punt returner.
They're certainly going to need a new kicker. I think that the first major decision that Rule is going to have is going to be whether or not he fires his longtime friend at special teams. And if, like, this is one of the first moves, Jack, that he makes or doesn't make, and people kind of lose faith in him.
I don't know how you don't now. I don't know how you don't, but I don't even get the special teams coaching because it was interesting. It was interesting when the question was asked. I think Mitch asked the question in Rule's last press conference when he was like, well, Foley's not like helping them learn the technique to kick. And that was when he said that Brett Maher had been hired, which was interesting to me. And like, so like, the issues that Nebraska has with special teams are very sort of specific skill-based issues. If that's not getting fixed, what is the special teams coach even doing?
Well, I mean, it's so much more than just that, right? It's about the way in which you are game planning, return situations, blocking situations, coverage situations. Bama just scored again. All of those types of situations. So like I didn't have an issue with them bringing in like a kicking specific person.
I don't have an issue with it. I just don't know what he's doing. Not
fully.
Fully. Yeah.
Well, but there's so many other aspects of special teams, right? Like special teams is not just a kicker. And I mean, how many times have we talked recently, Jack, about how when you're struggling at kicking, it's like a golfer where it is just so mentally. So like I wondered if Maher was brought in, and it's like, which is so funny because dude, he like the end of his run with Dallas, it was a shit show. And he was missing all those extra points in the playoff games. So it's interesting that he brought him. So I didn't view that as an indictment on Foley. I view the special teams as an indictment on Foley. I view everything else as an indictment on Foley. They can't snap. They can't that's his. What are you doing? Why can't they snap these?
That's what I mean.
Like, these field goals.
How can you get to this point where you don't have someone who can snap? Unless they all multiple people got the yips today or last week.
Yeah, it's a good question.
That's crazy. And again, it seems like a skill and something that you discover in the spring, you discover in the summer that you've got to have somebody who can do it, and you bring somebody in who can do it.
Yeah. Tony asked one little tidbit from the presser. Micah Mizuka's situation will be explained on Monday. I don't know because he was asked about him and he said he's not off the team.
He said he's not here. He's off the team. I'll tell you more on Monday.
No, he said he's off the team. I thought he said he's not off the team.
No. Yeah. Sorry. He's not here. He's still on the team. Yes. I will tell you more on Monday.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see what that is. My guess is there is some sort of like a come to Jesus type conversation to have between Rule and Mizuka, and maybe by that point he's not on the team anymore. I for the record I have no intel, but
maybe he's opened a winery in Sonoma. I mean, we don't know.
There's got to be money in that. Question that we didn't get to earlier from JP. If the first and second halves were flipped, is there as much panic? Dare I say it would actually be more, JP, and here's why. Because it would fit with the narrative of this season, and that is that they cannot do anything good in the second half. The fact that they finally put together a good second half, we didn't mention that earlier, Jack, when we were talking about the positives. That's certainly a positive. That they were way, way better in the second half. They outscored them 28-10, and when the game was in doubt, they outscored them 28-3. It was a total annihilation.
Yeah, it was like it's weird. Like if that was the first half, that was what I expected from the game, or what it ended up like I expected. But that was kind of everything. I mean, if you just take the second half on its own, there's very little to criticize in that whole thing. Yeah. There really is very little to criticize that whole thing. So, yeah, I agree. If it were the other way, it would have felt like all the other games, right? It would have felt like Colorado. It would have felt like UTEP a little bit. All of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I agree.
Corey,
with that
the
too.
Western Nebraska Diners need Foley to stay on the payroll. Nice.
Yeah, right. Economic development, baby.
Also, man, a lot of people want to hire your rival in the morning radio scene. That's what a lot of people want Nebraska to do. To which Chuck says, "I'd say hire someone better than Bill." Like that would be a classic. Like, let's bring in another of the old guard. And like,
you want to bring in Bush to do special teams?
Yeah, that's what people want to have happen for next year. He did a solid job, but it's like I would hope that they would.
Oh, that's right. He did do special teams.
He did special teams.
I'm just thinking because he was the defensive coordinator in the end of his stint. But
yeah. Foley can still go to high schools and take exterior photos. Exactly. He doesn't need to be a coach to take photos. You don't have to do that as a full time.
Make him some kind. Yeah. There's a million staffers, right?
Oh, Matt says you're not going to hire someone better than Bush in the middle of the season. I want him hired tomorrow. Okay, I misunderstood. I didn't realize people wanted Foley. I mean, like I know people want Foley fired today. I don't expect that to happen. So, am I being a jerk?
No, I don't think it'll happen. Yeah, he's not going to fire him during the year. Absolutely not.
Yeah, he's definitely.
I mean, if you want that, so be it. But it's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Am I being like,
no, you are this is very rational.
Or maybe certainly not firing him and just taking away his job. I guess, could they reassign titles or something like that? I don't know. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't really expect that though, I guess.
Yeah, me neither, man. And I wonder what this ultimately means for the special teams. And so that's why I like to go back to what you asked a couple of moments ago about the next couple of games. Jack, they played one close game this year. They lost it. They will play many more close games. Dare I say this next week will be a one-score game. Indiana is going to be a one-score game. Let's see. Ohio State won't be. UCLA, maybe it will be. Wisconsin, USC, Iowa. Like, there are many more one-score games on the ledger in the final 7 than there have been in the first 5. They have to do. I want to say they have to figure it out. They just have to avoid having special teams matter, and I don't know how that's possible. I don't know how that's possible beyond the offense having drives like they did.
Offense, the way that it's possible, Josh, is the offense and defense are wildly successful the entire game.
Oh, God, that is scary, man.
Yeah.
It's scary.
No, it's tough. I will say this about the Indiana game specifically. I do like the idea that Indiana is getting enough love. I think I'm gonna like their mental state going into that game. And I don't know, it'll be affected too what happens with Rutgers, but sort of because Indiana, I believe, has Northwestern still before that. I think that's their only game.
Correct. They have Northwestern this next week, and then they're off.
Yeah, and then they're off. So, and Nebraska's off too. So, there's going to be plenty of Indiana hype and Signetti hype, and they'll probably be rated. That's the thing. Next 3 teams, you're probably going to have 3 games in a row against undefeated teams. This is crazy. Everyone but what? Purdue, you're going to play unbeaten to start the season.
Wow. That is wild. I hadn't even thought about that. I had to think
through the schedule. Every team but this game today, up to Ohio State. After that won't be the case, but up to Ohio could be unbeaten.
Rutgers is undefeated.
Probably be undefeated.
Indiana is playing at the Tiny Baby Stadium in Evanston. They should win that game next week. So they should be undefeated. Ohio State, of course, the big one that they're going to have in between now and then is the Oregon game. They do have Iowa next week, which I think could be a little curious, just given Iowa's proclivity to play defense. And
Ohio State does?
Yeah. They have Iowa and they have Oregon.
Where's that
still. It's in Columbus. The Iowa game is. Yeah. And then after that, obviously UCLA, USC, etc. Nobody else is undefeated. So that's very interesting, though. Very interesting that could happen to start the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Will Rutgers be? Do we think? I don't know where they're at. Where's Rutgers in the? Not that this matters, but where's Rutgers in the others?
They have no votes yet.
Oh yeah, we talked about this on Wednesday. That's wild.
Yeah, 0 votes yet for Rutgers. Well, they've only played 4 games, so coming into this weekend, they'd only played 3. I'll be honest, I don't think that they've played super, super good so far. So I'm guessing some of it's that. They don't have a marquee win, at this point. If they would have held on against Virginia Tech and kind of ran away with that game, maybe they would have gotten some votes. But given the way in which they let Rutgers or let Virginia Tech rather play, come back into that game.
Right.
If they would have won going away, I wouldn't be surprised if they would have.
Did Oklahoma beat Auburn today, or did Auburn win?
They did. They came back and beat
Oklahoma. Won. Did A&M beat Arkansas?
Yes, they did.
Okay, so the top 25 isn't going to change a lot at the bottom.
Because, we'll see what they do with Illinois, depending on what this game.
Boise's 25, A&M's 24. K-State's 23. They won big. BYU won big. They're 22. Oklahoma's 21. Oklahoma State might drop out. They're 20.
They're going to drop out. They got killed today. Did you see any of that? Oh, I guess it was on at the same time. They got smoked.
Well, yeah,
Kansas State mauled them.
And then Illinois is 19. So if they lose to Penn State, they could drop out too.
But they're driving again, by the way. They're inside the 15, first and 10.
So Washington State is 26. So Boise or Washington State will be that one team. One of them will be in. And then Indiana's the next one after them. Boston College is next. I don't know. They were losing, I know, to Western Kentucky. I'm not sure if they lost. UNLV, Pittsburgh, Nebraska is next. Nebraska's ahead of Iowa. So
that's wild. Boston College won by a point versus Western Kentucky.
They did win. Okay, so
yeah.
I mean, Nebraska's going to be.
Louisville lost to Notre Dame.
Yep.
Georgia just went for it, by the way, on 4th and 1 on their own side.
I think there's a decent shot Indiana will be ranked.
Definitely. Dude, they won again.
Indiana.
And they won again.
That's right. Indiana's not next week.
Fashion.
Sorry, Rutgers will not be ranked. Indiana will be.
I'd be stunned. Yeah, Indiana, in my opinion, should be ranked. They're playing really, really good football right now.
And if Nebraska beats Rutgers, they'll both be ranked, most likely.
Yeah, I think you're right. Nebraska
will get ranked again if they beat Rutgers during that week off. It's just teams will lose,
Awesome. Ranked on ranked, baby. Let's do it. Let's have the whole conversation again about Matt Rule and how he does versus ranked teams. Let's do it. By the way, Illinois is inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah.
It is 2nd and 1 with 1:45 to go in the first
Penn
half.
State just had a dumbass penalty.
Oh, I missed that. What happened?
Does Penn State always go with the numbers on the helmets now, or is that just like a special uniform?
Yeah, it's just a tonight thing.
Oh, here. Okay, yeah. Penn State or Illinois down low. Watch the tight ends. Watch the tight ends.
That's what James Franklin is saying right now. Jack Mitchell, James Franklin handshake meme.
Watch the freak. Oh, they did a quarterback sneak. Oh, wow. Altmaier almost scored on that. Jeez.
Oh, on the second down?
Yeah.
Penn State's calling their timeouts right now, trying to save
another thing, Josh. Still could be bowl eligible by the time Ohio State.
Dude, they could. That's the
4 wins, 2 more to get bowl eligible. They're going to a bowl this year, right? Come on now.
Yeah, I think so.
They're getting 1 out of 2 plus UCLA for sure, right?
Gotta go 1-1, beat UCLA. Everything else after that's gravy.
That's the bottom. They showed the replay of the Nebraska.
I was like,
I thought they just scored. I was like, they just ran the same play they did against Nebraska. They were running the replay of the big man.
Oh, it was literally the Nebraska game?
Yeah, it was literally the replay. I was like,
wow,
that looks like almost the same play. Well, guess what? It is. Did you notice, idiot, the red jerseys on the other side? Wow.
Oh, man. So are the vibes good, Jack? Are we feeling this one feeling okay? Leaving this
I'm
one feeling okay?
excited about these next 2 games. Are fun. Like I get why people are coming out of this with bad vibes, but man, sit down and look at the stats, look at the score, look at where things went wrong and where they didn't. And I think that will put you in a different mindset, to be honest.
Yeah.
Now, nothing will change your mind about special teams. That's it. Oh, doctor. Oh, God. Okay, Illinois. Sorry.
I missed whatever happened in that play. They're showing a replay now. So, oh my gosh.
Snap went over Altmaier's head. Nothing will make you feel better about special teams. I can't fix that. That's above my pay grade.
It's the one thing where we are just unable to find any sort of a silver lining. There is a silver lining with the run game. There is a silver lining with the defense. There's a silver lining with a lot of stuff.
Josh,
there is nothing to offer positive about special teams. Absolutely.
Let me paint this picture for you, though. Okay. Rutgers comes in, and Nebraska has. I think Nebraska will be you asked this earlier, I think, right?
3-point favorite, I think, is what they're going to be.
I would say 4.5. Nebraska will be a 4.5 point favorite.
Okay.
But they do that. They win, and they get a close win, and they have a week off after that. It's all back, right? Like, I mean, the vibes are.
Dude, if they get a close win and they move to 5-1, at that point,
with that Indiana game and a week off.
Like, I'll be honest, and this is not like a criticism of anybody, but I get to a point where it's like they're 5-1. I can't really ask for a whole lot more from a program that has struggled to get to 5 wins. It's like if they start like now, Jack, like they're about to get into the world of just finding ways to win games, and so like I will be. And like, does this make me a homer? I don't know, but I will get to a point where I'm going to be very forgiving of their ability to win football games. Very forgiving of if they're able to do it. Now, if they're not, and like, if all of these issues that we talked about tonight, special teams, running game in moments, play calling issues that you pointed at, and among a myriad of other things, if those start costing them games, then there's nothing I can do about that. Like that will deserve the criticism. But if they continue to pick up dubs, like, it's going to go a long way.
Josh, give me a game with Emmett Johnson at running back, and let's see. I'll take my chances.
That's a change. People always talk about Jack, like, make a change, do something different. Emmett Johnson starting and playing the majority of the game would be a pretty massive change.
And he's got to. I'll be pissed if he's not. Right? Like, let me just make that clear. He needs to be the feature back. He needs to be getting 70 to 75% of the carries.
Yeah, we have reached a point, I think, where if they don't do that, I don't want to say coaching malpractice because that would be too far, but it would be really annoying if they don't. By the way, Georgia just got called for an offensive pass interference. So everyone's getting called for him these days, Jack. Many are saying.
Yeah, not only did Purdue love defensive pass interference, they liked offensive pass interference too during that game.
Dude, brutal. Yes. Yeah, absolutely brutal. D-Dub says, I feel vindicated for all my EJ takes. Feels good. D-Dub,
you
hell
were right.
yeah, bro. Handshake emoji. It feels lovely.
You want a bad take from me? You remember what my take coming into the season? Gabe Ervin had the highest ceiling of any of the running backs.
Yeah, that might be that's not your worst take. You picked him to go 10-2 in Frost last year, but still pretty bad take. Still, I know it was a bit.
That was a rough take by me. Although, who knows? He hasn't really gotten a chance. Maybe we need to see him.
Oh, no, by the way, maybe it wasn't an offensive PI, or they scored on the next play because now it's 28-7 in the Alabama-Georgia game.
All right, sounds good. Ohio State.
I formation, it should be what Ohio State is.
Yeah.
Jeez. I formation, it should be EJ and Dante, and that is.
I will challenge that only in that I think there are situational times when Ramir as a receiver is more valuable than either of them.
Yeah.
I don't see Ramir running it up the middle anymore though.
No.
That was rough in the first quarter.
Yeah. By the way, OPI was a 2-point try. They went for 2 already? Wow. Yikes.
28. What are they trying to do? 8 times 4 is 32. What's happening here exactly?
Yeah, I think they're worried about their defense slowing them down. Looks like Illinois is gonna have to settle for a field goal. Yeah, indeed they are. Looks like Burt wanted a pass interference penalty as well, and he didn't get it. So that is what's going on there. 44-yard field goal upcoming.
Hey, listen, we can already say this now. Illinois is not. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in the second half. We've seen today, first half can be very different than the second half, but so far Illinois is holding their own. So through one half for sure, they're probably going to go. They're probably going to go to halftime with a lead in this game.
Yeah,
Colorado looked way better than we thought they were too.
Yeah, shout out Nebraska for beating Colorado down, because now Colorado keeps picking up wins.
And all of a sudden, they play Kansas State next week, or maybe they have a week off in between. And then I was looking at their schedule, I was like, holy crap, there's like a string here where they're going to be favored in a bunch of games.
Yeah, John picked them to go to a bowl game earlier this week, and I was like, nah, I don't think so. Mainly because I thought they would lose today, and then they won by 27 points. And so it's like, oh, wow. They're now 4-1. Their next game is Kansas State, but it's in 2 weeks, Jack. So that's on October the 12th. I think now I would say this. They are a better team than they were last year, and I feel like that is inarguable. Well, they definitely look like a better unit.
Defense looked better, but they had a running game today. Like they're pulling running backs out of the woodwork that weren't there for the Nebraska game. Like, that Offerdahl guy isn't even playing anymore. They played the Ohio State transfer. They got another couple of guys that are there, and the running game works, and Hunter seems to be getting better every game.
Travis Hunter is so freaking good.
Now all of a sudden it's like a real deal. He might win the Heisman, because if they end up at like 7-5, 8-4, you could obviously justify it then. You have to justify it then. You'd be stupid not to. I mean,
yeah. Oh, John, that win could lose today either. Nice. There you go, UTEP. Good job, UTEP, by not losing.
Yeah, that UTEP team is way worse than I realized. That one is not coming the other way.
Adam says best story in sports history. I think he's talking about Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter,
the Colorado thing. They kept saying.
Oh, okay. Travis Hunter.
I got so mad about that. They're like, they're not the best story in college football. They're the best story in sports.
Nice. Was that last year? That was last year. That was
right? Last year after 2 games.
After 2
Whatever.
games. After
I still want to see him suck.
Oh,
they missed the field goal. What happened? Doggone it.
Doggone it. That's a good old man curse word right there, Jack.
Doggone it. That's my dad. That was my dad's swear word.
Oh, all right.
Doggone it.
Well, that was I-80 Club After Dark. Normally we do these at 8. This week, the schedule, we decided to push it up a little bit. Next week, the schedule, because I have radio duties for Bigger No Reaction, we're going to push it back a little bit. Yeah. 9-ish. We'll give you the locked on time as we get closer to. We'll figure that out, and Jack and I will have some discussion. So maybe a little late night action next week, Jack.
That's cool.
We do this.
That's cool. We'll have the second half of these games that we had the first half of tonight going on while we do it, and hopefully a win. And I'm still going out tonight. I got a birthday party to go to tonight. So
we changed it. Or are you going to go out in the jersey?
I'm going to change.
Okay.
Should I?
It'd be funny if you didn't. It'd be funny if you didn't.
You know what? Then I think I will.
All right.
Yeah. So I appreciate you guys letting us go a little early, but I think it made sense tonight too. But yes, with 3:00 game next week, we will go later, and we'll be your late night companion. next
Yeah,
week.
my guess is maybe starting at 9:30, but again, some of that is what time Nebraska's game ends.
You know, here's how you don't have to worry about it. Subscribe to the YouTube page. Subscribe to the YouTube page, and you'll get a notification.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. And hey, how about this too? Be like Tony, our newest member of the I-80 Club. Hit up patreon.com/I-80 Club. Next week is going to be, dare I say, Jack, the busiest week that we have ever had inside of the club. Let me paint the picture for you. Monday morning, 7:45 a.m. Mike Schaefer and yours truly, National Fun League, Week 4. My Cowboys already got a dub this week, so I'm feeling pretty good. Schaef's Vikings take on the Packers tomorrow. We will talk about that 7:45 a.m. Tuesday at noon, an interview with Ryan Nanny of the Shutdown Fullcast and the brand new Who Killed College Football podcast. He will join us. That will premiere at noon. We're going to record that on Monday, but it will premiere on YouTube at noon. Wednesday, for subscribers, Wednesday night into club. That will start Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Thursday, we are doing a live interview with Max Olson at 11 a.m., so we'll do a +1 there, and then we'll do Saturday morning and Saturday night. I think that that's all of it, Jack. I think that that is all of it. That was what, 5 podcasts, 6 podcasts?
6.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. 6 pods. Holy God. I don't know why you're doing your hands that way. You could have done it.
I did it. I just decided to keep counting the weirdest random way possible. 6.
Yeah, well, you did a very good job. So we would love to have you. Some of those will be behind the paywall. Others won't, but we would love to have you join us, and you can join the chat like Tony did today. And if you want your comments read on the pods, you can see us.
Chuck pays so we can call us Chuck pays so we can say no Friday, lazy asses.
No Friday.
When we rest. That's when we rest.
Oh, but hey, maybe keep that day of the week in mind moving forward. Maybe it'll be basketball season before you know it. Maybe keep it in mind. Jack, we did it. 90 minutes.
Party. Let's watch the second half. Let's enjoy a win tonight. You know, bask in it. It only happens a few times a year that you've got a Saturday night where there's college football on and you're coming off a win. So do me a favor and soak it in and enjoy it for the rest of the night. And thank you for hanging out with us tonight, everybody.
Jordan says this is a better bang for your buck than Peacock. Wow, what a compliment. Thank you very much, Jordan. We would love to have you.
Josh is torn about that.
Yeah, I am watching Peacock right now.
He's he gets his talking points from the anti.
And one more thing. Hey, if you're still here and you've been watching on YouTube and you're not a subscriber and you're like, no, I'm not going to do any of the things that you just said, that's fine. Just like and subscribe if you could on YouTube.
Please,
and then you'll get notifications
never,
whenever we do our shows.
Don't give us any money. You don't need to.
All right. Jack, enjoy your party tonight. Don't change out of the jersey, please.
I think I'm going to. But maybe not. It does have piping. Do you know that? Did you see that?
I thought you were about to show me some pit stains.
No, it's got piping. This is 2002 vintage. Yeah, not a lot of people have these. I'm going to be honest.
Jack's wearing the jersey of a murderer. All right, Jack. Have a great night. Enjoy the party.
See y'all.
See everyone on Monday morning. Goodbye.